We're going to talk about arrays as products. Well, firstly, what is an array? An array is a rectangular grid with rows and columns. This array has 6 columns and 3 rows. The columns go up and down and the rows go across. This array has 4 columns and 5 rows. An array can have any number of columns and any number of rows. If we're going to look at arrays as products, we need to know what a product is. Basically, a product is the answer to a multiplication problem. Here's our array with 4 columns and 5 rows. It actually helps us with the product of 5 times 4. Multiplication is like counting how many groups of something we have. 5 times 4 can be the same as thinking about having 5 groups of 4 things. So one group of 4 is 4. 2 groups of 4 would be 8. 3 groups of 4 would be 12. 4 groups of 4 would be 16. And 5 groups of 4, in this case 5 rows with 4 squares in each row, is 20. So 5 times 4 is 20. As I've just shown you, you can use arrays to help us find the value of products. Let's look at another example. This one asks us to fill in the boxes. This array shows some number of rows with some number of squares, and it also shows some number of columns with some number of squares. So we need to know how many rows we have. Let's count them. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. How many squares are in each row? Let's count them. There are 2 squares in each row. So this array shows 4 rows of 2 squares. There are 2 squares in each of the 4 rows. The second part asks us to answer how many columns and how many squares in each column. Remember that a column goes up and down. Here's one column, and here's another. This array has 2 columns. How many squares are in each column? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. This array has 2 columns of 4 squares. Did we change the number of blocks? No, the number of blocks hasn't changed. The only thing that changed was the way that we described it. The array showed 4 rows of 2 squares. That's like having 4 groups of 2 squares, and we can write that using multiplication as 4 times 2. The array also showed us 2 columns of 4 squares, which is 2 groups of 4 squares. We can write that using multiplication as 2 times 4. Both equal the same number of squares. So in this case, both 4 times 2 equaled 8 squares and 2 times 4 equals 8 squares.